So everyone, give a very warm welcome to Anca Platon.
You're such a Romanian. Yes, she said it. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you actually found this one room, the farthest away from all the other rooms. I almost got lost on my way here, so I'm very excited that you're here. I also want to give a shout out to our gentleman in planner in the room. You don't often see a planner. Are you a planner or a supplier? Putting you on the spot.
I came because I like AI.
Okay, all right, love it. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because we're going to do this as a workshop. So you better know the people around you, say hi, introduce yourselves, because you're going to work with the people around you. So if you don't like who you're sitting next to, this will be a good time to move. I'm giving you the option. All right. I've done that once in a session, and I've had some people move. So you never know. Okay, so if you've been in the main space area and you were part of some of the keynotes that were already there, by now you know that this is somewhat of a continuation of the thought process that I started. When it comes to AI, there's a lot of tiredness and overwhelm that comes with it. Yes, we've had it for now in the generative form, because we had machine learning for a while, but in the Gen AI form, we've had it for the last 3-4 years, and I'm sure everybody has done something with it. Like at what level, it doesn't matter, but you've done something with AI. Now, the fact that there's a new tool every single week doesn't help. And there's a new platform that claims that it's AI-minded, AI-featured, AI this, AI that, and a new promise that this one tool will finally make your job so much easier. And yet somehow what it feels like, especially from the people that I get to talk to, the job feels just harder. It feels like there's more steps to it now, and there's more work, and there's more QCing. And while there's more output, and a lot of that comes with its own version of how accurate, how many hallucinations are we talking about, what kind of slop are we working with, all that is true. So all of that falls kind of like on your plate, and now you just have to deal with it too, not just the things that you were responsible for earlier. So in the keynote earlier, what I said is that AI doesn't magically make the job easier. It basically exposes where work was never designed clearly enough to begin with. And this session is more of a workshop in the execution of those ideas. Today, in this session, this afternoon, I'm following the same premise and the same lens, but now I wanted to showcase it through a few case studies, through a few exercises we're going to do. And then by the time we're done, I hope that you'll have a few workflows that you can implement into your own system to make your life easier, if anything, at least to try something new and then see if it works for you or not. Does that sound like a good plan? Good. Okay. So why does this matter now? Most of AI training really focuses on a lot of tools and prompts, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think from a strategic point of view, that can be the wrong starting point. The starting point is understanding your work clearly enough so that you know where AI belongs and where it doesn't. In 2024, we did a lot of experimentation. Everyone was trying AI. Everyone was playing with AI. Everyone was seeing what's possible and what's not. But then I feel like we had a year of confusion last year, because not only did the tools multiply, not only the expectation rose, but the structure didn't keep up. What we learned is that there's also a lot of false promises, a lot of hype that comes with AI. And while some teams were moving faster, others were barely catching up. So I hope that this year brings more clarity. This is the year of clarity, where we get to figure out how this thing works. And especially since we're moving more into agentic AI, this is important, because the teams who win this year won't be the ones with the most tools. The teams that win will be the ones who design their work clearly enough so that AI can actually help. And that's what we want to build on today. So for the agenda, we're going to start with why AI feels chaotic in event work, how it shows up inside the real workflows. Then we're going to look at a live case study from a high-stake AI-driven event and break down what worked, what failed, where were the risks, and where did they show up. And then from there, we look at the patterns behind safe AI, the guardrails, the checkpoints that keep humans in the loop. And then we're going to do a short lab using the event work that you're all working with, so your own personal examples. And then I'll give you 3 concrete AI workflows that you can take back. And then we're going to close up with what we learned and what you can do next with that. And the outcome that I hope that is going to come out of today is that you understand what worked in our own experiment when we took AI and used it from A to Z in this one event that I'm going to share with you, including where humans stayed in control and where we didn't, and where the systems broke. Then we're going to run this one hands-on lab, and then, as I mentioned, the 3 workflows, which I really hope they're going to be helpful to you. And with that, a little bit about me. I think you've already learned that I've been in events for 20-something years. I have been using AI full-time, not just on the, oh, here's a cool AI tool that I'm going to test. I'm actually building with AI apps. I'm building agentic AI. I'm building workflows. So for my own, in my own experience, AI multiplied my output. But I can do the work of 20 people. And I say that like without bragging, like for real. I run 3 businesses. I am an AV production specialist with a production background and a company that runs on the production side. I also am an event planner. I'm a bodybuilder full-time, winner and champion, and I run AIinevents. So on top of all the things that I do, I also host the Events Demystified podcast. So for anyone that's like, okay, how do you have so much time in your day? I actually don't have more than 24 hours like everyone else. I just utilize a lot of AI to do the work that I don't have to do anymore. So why does AI feel chaotic? I feel like I already gave you the answers on the screen because I wanted to quiz you first, but I moved too fast. One of the main reasons is that the conditions of how AI is changing, it's also changing our workflow faster than we can keep up with. But that also means there's a lot of speed without structure. AI that produces output faster than teams have time to review or iterate or integrate. If you have the output app and then the clarity is down, then by default, you know that that does not translate into a good outcome. And even when something looks really polished, it's harder to really tell if it matters or not. And then the tools are really moving faster than all the workflows. And a lot of you, because I do have those conversations with event professionals, you're still operating on pen and paper, on spreadsheets. You're still operating the old school way. So now when you're thinking of AI, you're wondering how is that going to be integrated into your workflow to actually make it happen, to make a difference. And that's why it's so important when I spend time and have those conversations is to look at the workflow, to look at the process, to look at the structure within your constraints so that we can start there before we apply any solutions to it. How does this show up in events right now? It shows up through automation. Automation is rule-based execution where AI follows instructions and completes repeatable steps. It works when work is stable and outcomes are well-defined. If you use it too early, it can create speed without control. And we've experienced that during one AI event that we ran, and we tried to automate a lot of the steps, and it did work. We automated it, but then it also got out of control really fast. Augmentation is where AI supports thinking. It can synthesize information, it can surface patterns, it can draft content, while the human still remains in the loop and retains the authority. I think a lot of the work that's happening right now is that augmentation, where you're using AI to help you, and at the same time, you're not necessarily letting it run without your decisions. Then agent-style execution is where you allow AI to take multiple steps toward a specific goal that you can set up or towards a workflow that you can also set up. It is powerful. It's agile, but it's also fragile, which means that if you set this agent up to go and do work on your behalf, it will constantly require some babysitting. And if you don't have that workflow set up well with authority structures and boundaries that are explicit, it can really run out of control really fast as well. And I think a lot of the teams right now struggle because these modes get mixed, and they're mixed without much of understanding of how they work or how they apply best, without much intention. So once you know what mode works for what, and we're going to have this framework that I'm going to share with you in a second here, then it makes it easier to know what's applicable where. Okay, so the core premise that today is built on, and I hope that you agree with some of this, because if you don't, then maybe the session just won't land. AI doesn't fix broken processes. I talked about earlier and why. AI doesn't judge quality or intent on its own. It automates whatever you give it. So if you have inefficiencies built in the process, if you have workarounds and unclear handoffs, that also gets amplified. And the difference between AI creating a good output and a bad one is really structure. It's clear roles, defined checkpoints, explicit human oversight. And when those exist, that's when you can say, okay, now AI has become a capability, not just a liability. So before we talk about tools for workflows, we really need a way to decide where AI actually belongs, and that's what we're going to be looking at next. So this is what I call the friction to value map. Before you choose any workflow, you need to have a decision lens. And this is my decision lens, and that's what we're going to use for the rest of the session as we're going to do a few exercises. Friction is time, effort, and coordination cost. Value is impact on outcomes that matter, attendee experience, revenue, trust, sponsor, success, risk reduction, you name it, whatever makes sense for you. And every event task can be plotted somewhere across these two dimensions. And when you do that, you end up with 4 zones. And those 4 zones are high friction, high value. That's where you want leadership and judgment to exist, because AI supports preparations, but human still gets to decide. Then you have high friction, low value. A lot of the admin work falls into that. And that's where some of the automation really belongs, to automate some of that mundane tasks that you still do. Low friction, high value, that's where augmentation works best. AI can support the thinking, but it doesn't replace the judgment. And then low friction, low value, that's where you gotta eliminate or find a template for it. That's where you're gonna find that it's really not necessary for you to still be doing the same thing. The mistake is applying AI without first deciding which zone the work lives in, because that's how you can turn this machine that moves really fast into more noise, more work, more chaos, instead of output that you can use. Now that we have this shared lens for where AI belongs, we need to be clear about who holds responsibility when we start working. So we're gonna do this game where, as you're sitting at your tables, you're all gonna take on a role, and those are the roles. And I want to make it fun, like where this is not some kind of a passive, me speaking to you. You actually get to decide, you actually get to work together with me on this. And the 3 roles that I came up with is the workflow owner, and you're the one that within your group, so if you're not sitting in a natural group of 3, maybe connect with some other people so you can have this group of 3 own each one of those roles. If not, then maybe you're just gonna wear 2 hats, like many of you do anyway, so you know how that works. And then you're gonna pick, okay, I'm gonna be this, and you can pick this, and then we can take turns. Just kind of like we do in kindergarten, where we all are responsible for an actual role and we don't fight. Doesn't always work. So then you have the workflow owner who decides what success looks like. Now, When I'm saying that you get to choose those roles, like I'm giving you the permission to choose a role. The AI operator is someone that translates whatever work you're going to be working on into steps, into logic, into prompts. But then the main focus here is to focus on clarity and execution. And then the risk officer protects judgment. Basically, you're looking for maybe bad assumptions, edge cases, places where AI could add complexity instead of removing it. And then as you work through those roles and rotate through them, because it's perfectly fine to say, well, I don't like this role anymore, but at least it gives you a point to start from. If someone disengages or is quiet, then I'm trusting the group to call them out and to try to involve them in the conversation. Now, I'm not going to put you in a corner. You'll be fine. And that is kind of like the framework for our exercises that will follow. So here's your first challenge. Do you all have an idea of what role you're going to play? Okay, I'll give you a minute here while I'm getting a sip of water. You are allowed to wear multiple hats, and you are allowed to swap hats. And here's your first assignment. Workflow owners, you get the task to identify one challenge from your last event and something that you actually struggle with or ran with high real stakes. And then the criteria for that is it has to be painful, something that consumed time or maybe created bottlenecks or more work. And it has to be from something real, like sure you can make something up, we're not gonna know, but hopefully it's something real, specific, something that you remember. And then maybe it's something that might come up again. So you know in your mind, oh my gosh, this might happen again. And then you're gonna have this conversation with your groups. You're gonna say your task, this one challenge in one sentence. And then the risk officer is gonna listen and you're gonna try to tighten it up. Just make it into one phrase that is a logical phrase. And then you're gonna look for something, a pattern that might trigger it, something that depends on it. And then the AI operator is going to listen for structure. If there's anything there that's missing, like clarity, if there's something that might make the workflow of that one challenge, if you make it at risk, if you put it at risk. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Am I making shit up?
Sure you are.
Yes, of course.
Does it matter what platform we want to use?
I'm sorry?
Does it matter the platform?
No. Everything is free. All I want to know, yes?
When you say workflow, do you mean like an end-to-end process where like we're putting an input command and it's running the workflow by itself? Or what do you mean when you mean workflow?
Workflow, I mean your process of how do you do things. Like when you think of event planning or sourcing, how do you think of the workflow that you follow? Is there a process, a system, or things just happen as they go?
So when you're wanting us to put this into assignment, are you wanting us to take our paper workflow and put it into agentic workflow? Or are you just wanting us to like create our workflow and see if like we can type it?
So the AI officer job is to see if there's a way in which that could be turned into a workflow, AI agentic workflow, but it will be looking for certain things like clarity, or does this make any sense? Is there the decision factors in here? Is there something at risk? Like that's kind of like the mind game that we're playing here.
Is there any programs that you would recommend us starting with then?
The challenge. The challenge, the pain point, and then, as I said, you're going to work in groups. So let's go back to the roles here. Your AI operator, that's the one that's going to hear what you just said, that real pain point, and is going to try to see, okay, is there any logic that we can apply to this? Is there anything that we can extract to be clarity, so that when the risk officer is looking at it and it's kind of putting it through the judgment filter, then it will be easier for AI to take that and understand it and not have questions down the road, which will be amplified and turned into more work. All right, so let's just say you come up with a challenge. What's your one challenge that you had at your last event?
I have quite a few now.
You have quite a few?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
We're going to GTC, which is NVIDIA's big show in Santa Clara. We are releasing our press release of a brand and things are getting dropped down.
So what's one of the workflow problems that you're seeing in that? The risk officer.
So it just seems like there's too much information being fed into one stream that's getting cut off, and not everything's making it through the pipeline towards who it needs to go to.
Which makes it confusing, probably.
Yeah. So what would be a solution to clarify and make that more clear?
Can you do it in kind of steps in point form? Provide the information in point form and not all in one paragraph?
Have you guys tried that? Do you have a PRG or something like that?
Yeah, so everything, like, we've tasked it out where, like, everyone has tasks, and you can, like, third-party that. But where I'm trying to understand sort of, like, why and how, like, what workflow would be used to mitigate some of the time delays when you're waiting on Dell, because, like, there's a lot of code, like, there's a lot of stuff.
There's not like a decision maker, some kind of a very pre-established structure of who gets the last word so that when this decision happens, we can move on. Like you're still waiting on everyone to make up their mind. So that kind of goes back to what I was talking about early in the morning with decision authority. That's important to have in the process. Otherwise, you end up basically kind of like with more work, more time spent on things that just are not worth it. So back to our conversation here with our little example. Basically, I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I'm not asking you to come up with this aha extraordinary solution. I'm just asking you to look at one of your challenges, dissect it a little bit, and if there's some clarity that those around you can bring to it, I want that to be the outcome. Does that make sense? Can we do that? Good. I made it sound harder than it is, I swear. It's not. Yes.
And I apologize.
Yes.
I don't know how the group would feel. Is there a way that maybe if one or two people here in the room can say an example and maybe you put it through the system for us and we can all work together as a group?
Yeah.
Instead of individually?
My goal was for you guys to connect on this, so you get to know each other. That was the exercise. I want you to have the opportunity to hear what the others are struggling with and then share some of your learnings, because there's a lot of knowledge in this room. So I'm not the only one here that I'm going to teach you. You're going to teach each other. That's the goal of the exercise. I was just trying to be a little sneaky of how I was going to deploy that.
Now you've got to spell it.
Yeah, I know. I'm forced to say the truth. Okay, let's give it a few minutes, see how we runs, and then we're going to move on. Sounds good? I see you're having a great time sharing horror stories or successes. I'm really glad actually you got to talk a little bit amongst yourselves, because I feel like that's where this value is. Being able to understand that you're not the only one dealing with a challenge. Also understanding there might be actually solutions that you didn't think about. And then thirdly, being able to just walk away with something new that maybe you didn't think about before. So I want to just take one quick check. Anyone that wants to share something that maybe was either challenging or maybe new, or maybe something like of an aha moment that you just learned just by talking to your group. Who wants to share? Yes, go ahead.
I've got a really simple one. It might be far more simple than everybody else.
Totally fine.
I work at a post-secondary. We send out invitations to events. One invitation will go to the students, and one invitation will go to industry groups that we want to come and support our students. And for every email I send out to 80 industry members, I get 79 emails back going, can I have 2 booths? What time can I be there? When do I set up? What do I do about this? Read your fucking email. It's all written down there. But they never do. They only read the first thing about something. And they, what day is it? What time can I come? Oh, for fuck's sake. And I don't have 79 email time slots to answer them. And the worst part is that they are all donors. So they all want an immediate response. And my lovely friend here was just saying, maybe have them fill out a form, and I'm sure there's a way we can use ChatGPT or something to do. If they mention booth, then it will give them a little preamble about you get one booth, you get 2 chairs, you get 1 plug-in, you get this, you get that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
That's like, it can be like an automated response that sends them that specific.
It has to be diplomatic.
It has to be, yes, yeah,
Because
yeah.
we still want their money. And it still can't sound.
I do know a good example and a bad example of that happening. So the bad example, I'll start with that, is when somebody went to this trade show and they generated a lot of leads, and then he thought it was smart to create an automated response system to go after each one of those leads and engage them. And the system was working, but like going back to that specific way of addressing, personal way of addressing every single person. That's the reason why promptly suggest that you maybe take notes for each one of the people you meet. So when you go back to them, you're like, hey, I really love your dress. Tell me more about where did you get it from before you actually go and connect with them. So that backfired really, really bad, because out of those, 12 leads, hot leads, good leads, and this for an event technology company is a big deal to be able to walk away from a trade show with, a good number of leads. 5 of them backfire and just went back and dark, and they're like, no, that's not the kind of AI we want to work with us. This was, somebody selling AI basically, and that did not work well. Not that they didn't know how to do the automation, but they did miss the human side of things to QC that. Now, a good example is, yes, you can set it up. Personally, I actually have Cloud Code layered on top of my email account, and it does a lot of responses that automatically I can send, and it's very highly customized to each person, because in the prompt itself, I would say, I need you to know these things about this person, and then when you email them, you give them context. So there's a lot of context that is already pre-built. That can be built now next level into an actual automation, an agentic AI that could do that. But again, with any agentic AI, that's what I'm trying to get to. If you don't have context, if you don't have clarity, if you don't have boundaries, it can backfire. And a lot of people claim that it's fantastic, it's great, and there's also the consequences that can come with the usage of it at the level that might impact your brand. So that's important to know. Anyone else that wants to share before I move into the quick case study? Yes, please.
So we were talking about how when you have multiple contracts, they have certain dates that you have to follow, then you have to send out 3 invoices with different dates that you have to remember to send on those dates. It just gets to a lot, especially when you're dealing with 50 plus clients, times that by 5 contract dates and invoice dates. It's a lot to remember. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. So you can use AI to create an ICS file based off those dates. You just give it all of the dates, and on that ICS file, you can upload that to your Outlook, and it will make an entire calendar for you with exact meeting dates for all of those instantaneously.
Is that an automation workflow, or is it an agentic AI workflow?
Would be more automation.
Automation.
Yeah, because you have to feed it all of the.
Are you guys in SharePoint, or what do you use? What do you work under?
I use my own software at the hotel that we have contracts, and then I feed that into ChatGPT, just submitting the dates and the group name, and then it will give me back a meeting, a calendar invite for just me that I can upload to my Outlook, and I've never missed an invoice or
Okay.
delivery date again since then.
So you're using Task a lot to keep you up. That's an easy way of actually incorporating ChatGPT into that workflow. So it's just a smart way that sometimes people don't think about that's possible. Yeah. Okay. So we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to jump now into this one case study because I want to share a few lessons learned from what we went through. So this came from an AI hackathon that we put together in this community of event professionals and marketers called Club Ichi. I don't know if any of you heard of it. I know there's a couple of people here that are members, so they're keeping me true here. They're actually involved. Like, is that you, Arthur? It's you. You'll see some of the work that Arthur did actually with AI, super creative, super fun. So what we decided to do was like, okay, hey, everybody talks about AI. Can we use AI to bring it into every step of the planning workflow, A to Z, and then see what is true, what is not, what is hype, what might fail, and then learn as we go. Not only was this a learning experience for us, but we're also streaming those meetings to other people to hear us go through the process of deciding what AI to use, what matters, what we learn. And there's different levels of understanding of AI and different experience levels. So we had a really good mixed bag of event professionals that came at it with curiosity, some with fear. They wanted to get more confidence in their usage of AI, but then also with expertise. There's plenty of people in that group that had a really good level of expertise. So this was going to be something that had a clear deadline. So we had September 24, this was last year, right before IMAX. We were going to go live and then present our findings. What mattered most for us is how would AI behave used in different instances, and take it from like this theoretical use or understanding of how it could be used to an actual trial and error. Because we were all a remote team, we had the constraint of working on this at different speeds. We created several workspaces for 6 different work streams. So we had planning, registration, attendee experience, marketing, data, content, production, technology, were different work streams. And then we had people choose which work stream they wanted to work in, and at their own level of availability, right? So one thing that we learned really, really fast was the fact that not everybody was moving at the same speed. And in events, that's important because there's a reason why there's steps to everything. But if one step moves faster than the other and dependencies then get changed, that can create a little bit of stress in the system. So we went through that just the same. So there's a few things, 3 moments that I want to highlight from this project. I guess each one of those will show in a different way, where AI helped, it hurt, or maybe it revealed something important about how our own work and processes needed to be redesigned. So those 3 moments were, first off, was operational visibility. And this is where it kind of goes into what you're saying, where you have a lot of deadlines, you have a lot of people working on different things, on different speeds, on separate workflows, different ways of doing things. And one thing that really helped is to kind of have this operational visibility. Our communication layer was Slack, so everything was happening on this Slack channel. What became super evident was that without a solid project manager in place, we were all kind of doing whatever we felt like doing, and we all kind of took responsibility for things like we felt like we should, but then there wasn't necessarily a clear understanding of who does what and what time frame so that everybody's on the same page. So what I did in that instance, I actually whipped out this Slack bot. I called it the AI Production Assistant, and what it did is just surface ownership. Who's doing what and when is that work due, and kind of trying to streamline this work stream coordination that was happening pretty fast in different layers in all of those 6 categories that we were working in. This actually was before Slack came up with their own version of bots, and I would like to take credit that they saw my bot and then they decided to make their own, so they took me out of business. But it really helped for what it was to just keep us kind of on track. That was its only job. Then the second was creative acceleration. And this is where Arthur and the creative team, they did an amazing job to create this bot glitch. Arthur, do you want to actually give it a really quick overview of what was supposed to be and then what it ended up being? And then I'll see if that matches my...
I mean, essentially, we just wanted to create a robot character that was going to be, you know, the sort of mascot and also the host of the entire event. So the MC of the event is this robot that we animated and brought to life using a variety of tools. Like, I think we used... It
was ChatGPT, Claude, Midjourney, HeyGen,
a whole bunch.
DaVinci. I mean, it was a lot of production.
Yeah. So we brought it to life, we created scripts, we used, I think it was 11 voices in the animating of the character. Yeah, that was really it.
So from that point of view, what was cool about the bot was that it generated content from a marketing point of view. It put out a lot of cool, funny content, because I think what you guys did well in the beginning was not just to create the character, but to create the voice. Like before there was a character, there was a voice, there was a personality. And it was very specific what we wanted this bot to be, because we don't want it to be snarky, and we wanted it to be like overpowering. We just wanted it to be something that people could relate to, and they end up like falling in love with it. But what for production side, and I was on the production side, what it meant, it actually turned into a buffer. And why did it turn into a buffer? Because we turned it into this intermission sort of like host that would come in every time we needed to switch speakers, presenters, presentations, videos, all of that, because everything was happening on a run of show that was pretty fast moving, and there was no time to do those switches unless we created some buffer. So then Glitch became our buffer, became this like super funny host that started with the introduction of the event and then would introduce each theme. And while that was happening on screen, on the back end, we were able to bring in the next presenters, the next presentation, load it all up, so everything is super smooth on the production side. So then the audience, all they saw was the execution, they enjoyed it, they fell in love with the bot in the chat, and it was just really, really cool. The other side of automation on the bot side is when this automation that was built to feed the bot the content to post on LinkedIn and other places kind of went a little crazy, and it completely inundated our Slack channel with a lot of content that was literally like, it was noise. It was like out of nowhere, it just started posting nonstop, and we had to shut it down. Like that was just like, okay, this doesn't work now. It's not funny. In the moment, it was not funny because it took away our communication layer. Another thing that we noticed with that was after it posted for a while, based on the context, based on the text scripts and everything that we wanted to give it, it also became stale really fast. Like AI is good at generating content, but it's not good at imagining things. It's not good at coming up with something new. So after a few posts, then we're like, okay, so this is kind of turning into this, like what they talk about, AI slop. So now we have to redirect it. We have to intervene again. So that was the creative acceleration with a side of QCing and human control that was necessary. Then we came to the platform, and this was another one of those moments where we ran registration through Luma, and Luma was integrated on the landing page for the event, which was vibe coded. Now, the landing page was great. We vibe coded that. We had Natasha on our team that just whipped that up in literally like a few hours, and it was a great looking landing page. But then from the landing page, we would send people to a reg page, which is Luma, and then they would receive the magic link to come into our platform, and we use Virtual Creator Studio that is by TK Events. Some of you might know actually TK Events because they're from Canada. And the reason why we use TK Events and their platform is because they came to us and they said, do whatever you want to do with the platform, make it happen, use AI in any way, shape, or form you want. So basically, they asked us to break the platform, which we gladly agreed to. They were really, really great to work with, so to go on the back end and code things so we can make things happen. And that's where a lot of creativity came from. Like, how can we automate the creation of this exhibitor booths? How can we automate the creation of content in this room and that room? So it was a lot of like AI usage through Manus and a lot of other tools where we had Michelle was leading the platform creation. Then we had streaming sent to the platform. So everybody that was receiving the registration link with a magic link, they were able to experience the platform. And then anyone that was not able to be on a platform, because the platform was only web-based, they could get a link to go to YouTube, because mobile wasn't necessarily something that we could do with VCS. One thing that happened here in this part is we had everybody wanting to register at once as we opened registration, and Luma crashed. And that's not a good thing when your registration platform crashes as you're about to start an event. And we didn't have control over Luma to be able to go and say, oh, we can fix it, we can vibe code it, we can figure it out on the back end what's necessary. So that's when the humans had to step in, go through this manual process of connecting with everyone that wanted to be part of the event, send them the links, make it happen before we could lose them. So those were the three moments, key moments that really, really highlight what I was saying in the beginning. AI can increase the speed, but then you still need a good amount of human judgment that can absorb some of the failures, that can provide ownership and visibility. And just speed alone doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be a good, solid outcome. So what worked in this AI experiment was that the shared reality came from those weekly meetings, human check-ins that we had, again, given that this is a remote team, and then everybody was able to share their learnings, share their failures, share everything. But not only that we were sharing, like I said, this was content for others because we were streaming live for anyone that wanted to be part of those learning sessions. And that's what kind of kept us onto kind of the same page, so that if somebody's moving too fast, we can all kind of bring ourselves back in and then make some decisions of what's important and what's not. Then was ownership, like being able to understand through the bot in Slack, like who owns what, who's responsible to deliver what moment in time, and just being able to keep everyone on the same team. Now, this Asana or Trello or whatever other management platform do that, but our goal was not to use an already established platform. Our goal was to try to use AI, see if we can make something with it to still keep us operating. And then strict guardrails. That is something that I think was important, and that goes back to the bot, where the whole idea of the creative system was that if we come up with the voice and the scope and the structure that we are defining, then we can allow AI to operate within those boundaries, and that prevents drift or having to rework the character. We did lose the voice once. Wasn't like where, hey Jen, discontinued the voice model there. Yeah, and then there's this one character that sounds, and voice is identity, right? And then we're like, wait, cannot have glitch lose its voice. How'd you guys end up going from there?
We did an aged version of him. Like,
oh, that's right. That was the last one we used.
Old man's voice.
Yeah. It was so cute because it finally made sense. It's like, I've been in this forever. I have all the links, you guys, to all the videos that we played. So at the end, I'll give you the opportunity to scan so that you can actually get the resources and just figure out for yourself how fun this was, and then maybe get some takeaways. Okay, so going back to this and what failed. This is where, as I was mentioning earlier, where it really put some, I guess, unnecessary strain on the process before we had to step in, and that had to do with the unsupervised automation that showed up when Glitch basically flooded our Slack channel. And that was what crowded our communication layer, and you can't have that because that's kind of leaving us without sound, basically. Then the next one was where we tried to use Gemini to take this run of show that we had and automate it. So it would automate the timings and then inputting of the presenters, the content, all the dependencies, everything that had to do. And we worked really hard to get Gemini to do this, and unfortunately failed time after time. It would not only ignore the speaker briefs and handoffs, but it would make up time and make up things that didn't exist. I hope that Gemini is better now. This was September, right? Like August, September. By now, I feel like they finally came up with quite a few things, Google Studios and Gemini. So if I were to do that again, probably I want to give it another try to see if it's better now than what we were working with back in August. And then the platform fragility, that is an important aspect of, especially if you're using third-party registrations that have API integrations, and you might hit a limit on their peak load, and that's kind of like the reason why our page went down. So if you've been in that situation before, you know how dramatic that can be, because everything that you've worked so hard for is for that one day, that one moment, and then if that falls, that's not good. So the anxiety that we felt was absolutely like immediate. We're also planners, so we had our backup plans already in place. So we figured out what we're gonna do now to take it into a different workflow and still make it happen. What I'm gonna take away from this, because from all of those little failures that we had along the way, in every single case, I think what is to be highlighted is that we, the planners, the people behind the event, we protected the event not because we had such a understanding of AI, but because we really had a really good understanding of the planning process. We had an understanding of what things are most likely to break, and then we had our backup plans, even though those backup plans, they were not all AI embedded and infused, right? So that's where it comes back to the human, to the experience that you've had. And in every system, no matter how built it is, That's something to take home, because all the time that you spend troubleshooting events, all the time that you spend toiling over events, it's important even in this age of AI. Okay, so another pattern that came out of this one little case study is that, one, AI accelerates output, right? We had content, we had metrics and analysis, we had all of those things happen faster than we could have done it ourselves. But speed itself doesn't necessarily mean that it can create alignment. And I think this is where humans do own the alignment aspect. Because AI has no understanding of, like, for example, in the bot creation, brand voice or context or risk tolerance or what actually matters for an event. So that's where judgment, that human judgment and discernment, that should never ever leave the room, because it's those constraints, those boundaries that really define success. So when we decided that, okay, that doesn't work, this is when we need to actually put some boundaries into effect, that's when we had more leverage and we were able to work with what we had. Then, as I said, humans' own alignment. I guess I did mention constraints. I think the way I want to highlight this, and something that I shared earlier, is the point of how intelligence adapts to the role that it's given. And this is something very, very important. You have to give it a role and you have to stick to that, and then be able to understand that AI as a tool is just a tool, but you are the person that understands the capability, understands what leadership takes, direction, judgment, all of those good things. All right, a few red flags to spot, and this is something that we needed to deal with during this one experiment, was sensitive data in open systems. I'm not gonna ask what kind of guardrails you guys are going to build around using ChatGPT with your customer data, because I'm sure there's some guardrails in place there, but that's something that should be top of mind. When you're putting any ISP sensitive information into an AI tool, you have to understand that there's some risk involved. AI making decisions, it's important to understand that anytime you give agentic AI the responsibility to come up with its own decisions, you're also allowing risk, right? You're also allowing things to deviate in a direction that maybe you are not ready for. That's where decision authority is so important. Think about allowing AI to refund tickets, and that can easily go really bad, really fast if you don't have boundaries in place. And then the third one is false confidence. You think that just because AI does really good on this one side, it will do really good on this other side, and that's not always true. You have to keep that in mind when you're implementing AI. Okay, I was gonna do a reset, but we don't have time for that. What I'm gonna do is, because we're coming to time, I'm gonna leave this in the slide deck, and then this is something that I was gonna work with you as an analyst, but I wanna get actually into the workflows, and there's 3 workflows that I wanted to share with you. And this is how, actually I use this every single day. And this is where I personally turn every moment into a learning asset. And the way I do that is, I have events I worked on, I have a bunch of insights, and I have, a bunch of decisions that were being made. And all of that is great, but how do I use that for continuous improvement? So after every event, I capture all the available feedback, and that can come through chat logs and PDFs and outcomes, and then I feed that raw data into an AI system, and that AI system can be any system, so it doesn't have to be just ChatGPT. And then the role of the AI is to surface patterns, what worked, what didn't, what broke, what specifically should change for the next event. And then over time, as you're training your AI system to understand and build this type of institutional memory, that's when you really are able to see patterns come into play, and then not repeat the same mistakes, or maybe rediscover best practices that you didn't know that were possible. And every event then contributes to this growing knowledge base, so that every subsequent event after that is just smarter and more efficient. In ChatGPT, you can use projects. I love to use projects and just feed it that information within just that event project. Copilot has its own, I forgot how Copilot calls it. Gemini had gems, and everybody has their own little version of what that looks like. The next workflow is reusable AI instructions, and this goes a little bit more into, you work with AI every single day, and maybe you ask it the same thing again and again. So instead of doing that, you turn this one-time really good result into something that you or your team can use. And the way you do that is whatever tool you're using, you basically ask it to summarize that whole logic, the whole process for you, and then save it into a markdown file. And then I save that file, and next time I deal with the same prompt or the same event or the same analysis of an event, I just upload the markdown file, and now it has the entire context, so I don't have to constantly repeat myself to do the same thing. So it's like one reusable playbook that you can save for yourself. So now it becomes the list of instructions that AI will use to be able to generate your playbook, your workflow, whatever that might be. And another one here is, okay, this one is a little bit more technical, but basically supercharge your AI with skills. And I'm a big fan of Claude because, one, it has a lot of capabilities that you can add it. Now it opened its own skills marketplace. So what that means, it's kind of like an app store for AI. You do have to install the skill, but it provides a lot of functionality. So like you can have advanced document processing, you can have front-end design for registration pages or landing pages. And then you can create a project and then feed your AI relevant context files, the markdown file that you just saved with whatever attendee data profile or event briefs or whatever. And this way you can direct the AI to use these skills with simple commands that you can create, and then all of that raw data can be used to turn it into actionable insights or marketing assets or whatever. So like, for example, for event professionals, what does that look like? And with that, I'm going to be closing here soon. Let's just say you can upload your registration data, and then you can ask Claude to analyze attendee patterns and create a concise PDF brief. And then you upload a sponsor prospectus and then quickly generate a basic landing page to share with your potential sponsors to be able to upload their assets or whatever it is that you're building for your ESG, your exhibitor profile. And that's where AI is really introduced into the conversation with specialized skills. And the marketplace is huge with so many different skills based on whatever the case study might be. I went a little fast through that, so I apologize for it. This is where I was going to show you an agentic workflow of a speaker asset processor. I built that in Cloud Code. This is what it looked like, and then the code is here. Now, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do this. Well, guess what? I didn't do it either. I just asked Cloud Code to do it for me. And then the outcome was this UI, and sure, I can beautify it. I didn't care. What it does is basically it automates the different things. Like it has an indexer where it searches for information for specific speakers. Then it tells me how that speaker will match with the event agenda or the topic. And then it provides a different opportunity either to pitch, that's a sponsor picture. Then it gives me a report, and then it analyzes what comes in, and then this one is just a system check to make sure that everything runs. And yes, it does because I've tested it. So this is something that has been easily created in Cloud Code. And all I did was like install Claude in the terminal and then start giving instructions, like what I needed to get done. And then it went step by step. And every single time it does something, it's going to be asking for approval. Or is this what you wanted to do? Is this what you wanted to do? So like think of a case study where you're like, okay, what could I do? And this is local on your machine, so there's no security involved where this is going to be information that's shared with the world. No, it's going to be localized to your machine. So the only problem is don't lose your machine or share it with someone else. Yeah, one important thing into AI systems when you think about incorporating AI into systems is to have this workflow pattern in mind, because everything it should be described in one sentence that has 4 components. One is when something happens, then AI does this. And then human gets to check whatever the approval gate is, so that the output can become this. So this is kind of like your pattern for anything that you build with AI. When, say, a speaker submits a bio, then AI can format that and check for this, and then operations can approve this and then format it into that. So that's kind of like the framework around which AI workflows work. And it's a very simple framework, but really it keeps the boundaries, it keeps the human in the loop. Okay, so what I want you to end with here is what we learned. I'm going to leave it at that. Commitment. There's a bunch of things that were said, and I know that we move fast through a bunch of things. That's a lot of information. But from all of that was said, I want you to just think of one thing that could be useful to you, and then make a commitment to apply it or test it or do something with it. Whatever it is that spoke to you, that feels like it's really going to solve something in your own workflow, take it and use it. That is what I'm asking you to do. Not just let words fill this room, actually do something with them so that you can find something useful. And even if that's something small, maybe just use one of the workflows as something small, but really turn it into something that you can execute and then work from there to make it bigger and better and useful for you. And then for the QR code to get not just the slides, but the AI hackathon, what I want actually for you to have, we came up with this thing called the Book of How. So when you get the slides, I'll make sure that in that Drive folder that you're going to be able to download, there's also the Book of How. So what is the Book of How? Is this document of about 20 pages where we go line by line with what we tried, what AI was used where, and what succeeded, and then what failed, and then conclusions. Our own conclusion, okay, why this happened this way. And that's very well documented because we had so much data, so many transcripts, so many conversations during this experiment, and then we wanted to turn it into something useful that people can actually use post-event, even if AI moves faster than we're able to catch up. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me what you're working on, and tell me what you're challenged by, and if I can help you with anything, or to find me. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. There's a lot of awesome sessions coming up.